I don't know how to gauge your intros and outros, but no amount of rehearsal helps. Or times that we do it. I think every time you're like,
Well, let's try it
well,
now.
let's just wing it. No, we're done.
Nope,
No, we're done.
Nope, we're gonna try it right now. Ready? Welcome to How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh. This is Jeremy Dunn, the beautiful man, the myth, the legend. And this is How Stupid People Succeed.
Yeah.
Make sure you like us, subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Facebook. Make sure you get in there and tag somebody that you think should hear our beautiful conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And today, Jeremy, what are we talking about?
We're talking about how to find your identity and like it.
Oh.
So a big part of being successful first starts with yourself and how you feel about yourself, because no amount of external success can solidify the personal feeling of success. So I was talking to somebody about potentially being on the podcast, and I said, well, why would you ask me to be on the podcast? I'm not successful. And I said, in the 80s, the male version of success was, make a lot of money, have this really fancy job, all that. But if I said, you're making all the money you want, but you hate your life, are you successful? And they said, no, I'm not successful. I said, okay, if you're doing absolutely what you love and what you're passionate about, and you're able to pay some bills, you're able to get by, you're able to do your thing, would you say you're successful? I said, yeah, 100%. So I would say, you're successful. You're doing it. You're doing your passion. You're living your life in the manner you want to, and you're accomplishing it on a really cool level. I would much rather be the guy that is content and understands what he loves and what he cares about and execute those things really well. And I have been the guy on the flip side. I mean, it's the whole JP Morgan conversation where I was doing what everybody else would have said is successful, and I was demonstrating that on a cool level. And personally, I felt the far opposite of success. So to jump into the thresholds of Josh Cooper and
Just jump.
And being satisfied with your identity, every person, every human being has to mature and uncover lies about their personality that they believed were true.
Ooh.
So what was a lie about your personality that you had to overcome and you had to work through?
There's several things that you're told as a kid, So one thing I go back to a comment that you shared before, your guidance counselor told you basically you just need to give up.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah. But no, you go on and you get your undergraduate degree, you get your master's degree.
Two of them, 2 minors.
Sorry.
Got my master's
Forgive
degree.
me.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. If we're going to say it, let's get it right.
And now, and then now you're a professor at a college.
Adjunct.
Yeah.
I'm actually writing
I don't even know what that
curriculum
means.
as well.
Cool.
It just means I'm not like a full-time teacher. I'm just like a part-time, like I jump in and help.
But that's still super cool.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's a dream come true.
Yeah. And I know you love it.
Yeah.
But like thinking about those things, about the specific things that people have said that you're like, F this, I'm going to prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the moments, and those are some of the things that I think of personally. And a lot of it for me is I go back to my upbringing. That growing up in in one of the poorest counties in Ohio. Mm-hmm. We were, it was just me, my mom, my sister, and my mom worked full time. She did everything she could to provide for us, but yet we're still on food stamps, and my mom did an amazing job providing for us, but by all stretch of the imagination was, like there was no way that I would be able to succeed and make anything of myself.
Right.
Especially with as quick as I would say I've got to the mark, per se. And so, but going through, I was always determined to be better and do better. So going through high school, I was in the top 20 in my class. I went to Ohio State, got my undergraduate degree. Went to Ohio State, got my master's degree, and of course I'm not using any of those degrees now. But, you know,
You are, just not directly.
Yes,
Indirectly.
correct. Indirectly, I am. But, you know, I've seen a ton of success in real estate that, you know, if you would have looked back, you know, I'm 36 years old now, look back, you know, even 20 years ago, you'd be like, no, that's not, you know, like,
Right.
you
It's
know,
not in the stars.
that's not in the stars. You know, so always trying to push myself to be better and do more and be more refined when it comes to those things. That's one thing that I wasn't necessarily told, but it was written in my story before it had ever taken place. And so, doing all those things, that was like, that's not me. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. You know, and, you know, being able to see some of that success has been really, really, really super cool when it comes to those things. What about you?
There's a significant moment where I realized I came face to face with kind of like a lie that I was telling myself. And it really was around that time of being done with high school and as well Marion. So it wasn't just being done with high school. To me, it meant a lot more because for whatever reason, my entire childhood, my entire life, I obsessed over the state of Florida, the Florida State Seminoles. And just for whatever reason, I knew at a young age
Deion Sanders, baby.
Deion, Charlie Ward,
Warwick
Dunn, Peter Warwick. I mean, the list goes on. But in that heyday, for whatever reason, nobody else in my family, nobody else, even my reality, cared as much about Florida State as I did. For whatever reason, I loved them. And so I always had this thought in my head: I'm going to go to school in Florida when I'm done with high school. And also, I definitely didn't really care for Marion much at the time. You know, being a high school kid getting ready to graduate. So for me, that whole transition was a huge part of like, okay, I'm gonna like reinvent myself in a way. And I was really struggling with a lot of, you know, just even like what the guidance counselor said. I mean, the guidance counselor looked me dead in the face and said, "Have you considered that college is going to be a waste of your time?" Meaning like I'm going to flunk out. Like you're not going to be able to do it. You know, I wasn't a good high school student. But there's also a level of I wasn't serious about it either. And I knew it was pretty remedial. I knew it was kind of silly. My math scores and all the major tests I took were always off the charts. So I knew I knew there was something there. I knew there was some skill there, intelligence there. But I was driving around town one day and I'm getting ready to leave for Florida. So I'm, you know, nervous and I'm freaking out. And as I'm driving, I just check my rearview mirror, and the thought that absolutely hit me that kind of relieved that lie was I can't drive to my destiny looking in the rearview mirror. And for me, it was a moment to realize the person that I have been has nothing to do with the person I am tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, it does, because habits are hard to break, character's hard to change. So it does. But on the flip side, I can take today and I can take tomorrow and I can begin to put in the work to reinvent the personality that I know I can be and I should be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that deep, deep down internal feeling or thought. But I think a lot of people buy into lies within their own personality. And when you buy into the lie of your own personality, you start shortcutting your own accountability. Well, that's just how I am. Says who? Well, why? And the deeper you're willing to go into that kind of like rabbit hole, the more you realize a lot of the narrative and a lot of the conversation that we listen to has nothing to do with what we're really, really capable of.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a point in your life where if I take this window of Josh Cooper's life and everybody help me put pressure on her, Julie Augenstein has to be on the podcast. She's not a public like speaking type figure. It's probably one of the most terrifying things she ever did in her life. But I promise you, this woman's story is, I mean, you can make a Lifetime movie out of it. And what she's doing now and the level she's doing it is absolutely inspirational. Yeah. But I can take, you know, like your life or her life or, you know, some of the other people that we're close to, and I can take this snapshot of what their life is like. And I can say, okay, you tell me where this ends up. And immediately people could begin to assume what's going to play out. And I think for me, I was in such a small universe that I was seeing and I was starting to buy into how does this play out, not realizing wait a minute, your capacity is so much more than what your past tells you. Your past really is a series of events, and you determine how much effect it has on your future.
Yeah.
And so for you, at some point, there was a transition to go, here's what the vast majority of people are doing that come from my reality. But here's what I'm going to do with my life. Here's what I'm going to do. And so for me, when that happened, and I was able to just be in Florida and literally not be known by anybody. So when I went down there, it was me and me alone. No family, no friend. What?
When did break come down?
The next year.
Okay.
But so for that time period, I was my own person, and I did my best to really try to start on this, like, okay, who do I want to be? Not who do I think I am, not who do I believe I am, but who do I want to be, and how do I try to work on becoming that? And I think when you work through the lies and the identity and your own personality, you begin to find things about your own personality that then can become a bigger strength. So when you're working through that and you get past the lie of, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing, or this is how you're supposed to turn out, what was one of the strengths about your personality that you discovered that you're like, holy crap, this is something that's actually really cool about myself that like I like this part of who I am?
Depends on who you ask whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have a super short memory. If something happens, I'm very quick to brush it off and just leave it in the past. Not looking in the rearview mirror. I don't do that a lot. Now I reflect on some of the things of where I've been to where I am now to where I want to go, but I have a very short memory of especially the things that didn't go so well, and I try to pick out the positive things in those. And with that, kind of paired with that, which I think has been a large part of who Josh Cooper is I'm super glass half full. Mm-hmm. So I'm very optimistic, and I really don't dwell on the past. I remember one conversation I had with a girl. So when I was working part-time at the church, and there was a girl in there, and she was super sweet girl, but she was going through some depression and things like that, and like she was really struggling with her identity. Mm-hmm. And one thing she asked was, just about life and like, how does she know that it's going to get better? And my response to her was, it gets better every day. Life gets better every single day, but it's all about your perception. Mm-hmm. If you think it's getting worse, then it's going to get worse. If you think it's going to get better, it's going to get better. And one of the things that as an adult, I've kind of picked up on, and I've shared before about, taking the kids to school. He's, like I speak these affirming words to my kids, because especially for my 7-year-old who struggle, and in reality, he struggles reading because he's a boy and he doesn't want to take the time to do it. Mm-hmm. But, me telling him he's a good reader, he knows his letters, he knows how to pound out words, things like that. As it relates to my life, telling myself, hey, you have favor, you're successful, you're great at this, you're doing all these things. I would rather tell myself those things to help form my identity and help continue to create that identity, mm-hmm. as opposed to tell myself the negative things. Mm-hmm. And I personally, I don't have time for all the negativity in life as it relates to the news and things like that. But, focusing on those good things, those glass half full things, and not being very quick to forget the past, learn from the past, and move on, and see how that can play out in a positive way.
Now, so with that, when things are going positive, things are going well, how do you then sharpen yourself so you're not believing a positive lie? Like, oh, I am the man, or oh, I am sick. You know what I mean? Like, so at some point, the transition can also go to the other side of the pendulum, mm-hmm. and get just as negative, just as dark as, a negative side.
Yeah. Well, I think humility is a large part in that. So I'll use real estate, for instance. Okay. Real estate is this this ultimate drive, this ultimate mountain for me that I want to try to conquer. But how do you know when you really conquer the real estate mountain?
Yeah, there's no pinnacle.
You can't. Like whether you look at your local area and you have the most sales or the most volume or whatever, there's always going to be somebody out there that does more, that does more transaction, does more volumes, and they do it better than you. So being able to refine who I am and the humility of knowing I am not at my final destination, I need to continue to monitor that and grow and get better and appreciate where I am in the journey to where I want to be. This whole thing, like Gary Vee, Gary Vee is all about the gratitude, right?
Yeah.
You have to be thankful for where you're at. You have to be thankful for where you're at and how you got there too, because knowing that is going to help, leap you into the future.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So how do you control what you listen to mentally, what you tell yourself mentally? How do you control that conversation in your brain to make sure that you're navigating yourself the right way?
It's just been a ton of practice. It's been a ton of practice. Hopefully, I mean, most of these people can think, like my mind, like I see a lot of squirrels in my life. And, being able to just rein that in and practice it does me no good. And I've learned this, does me no good to think about the negative things.
Right.
So thinking about the negative things when I catch myself, I need to block those out. And I need to think about those positive things and how I can progress and see success.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's it.
That's great.
Let it be written. I guess. Let it be said. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. This is Josh Cooper and Jeremy Dunn, and this is How Stupid People Succeed. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Instagram. Not yet, Instagram.
No,
you said yes.
Oh, I'm just believing.
You weren't
In
even
faith.
paying attention.
I'm in faith.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple. Like us on Facebook. Make sure you comment to somebody who would benefit from this conversation, or anybody in general, I guess. Right?
Everybody.
Everybody.
In general.
Yeah. Tell you what you should do. You should go on your Facebook page, go to your community, invite all friends.
Invite them. There you go.
Invite them.
You've not done that. Yeah, that's a good outro.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all we got. Until next time, you're the best.
Make it creepy.
With the little wink.
Make it creepy. Sam.
Yes.
There you go.